This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Diego County today, joined by Tasha Boerner Horvath. She is a councilwoman in Encinitas. And throughout the region, many elected officials, many volunteers recently engaged in the homeless count.
Yes.
You were there. I want to get a sense from you. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? And I say that not pejoratively. I mean, I want to get a real flavor of it.
So I think it's really great. You know, getting up, and being there at 3:30 in the morning for a 4 a.m. start.
Right.
You wouldn't think so many people turned out, but we had a massive turnout. We had over 40 people show up, and they each took a different precinct in Encinitas. And so I went out and did actually a precinct where I used to vacation when I went down and visit my uncles.
Oh,
so
there you have it.
that I had.
And it's interesting we're talking about Encinitas, which is considered a fairly well-heeled community. So one would not necessarily expect homeless congregating in Encinitas, but through this crisis, we've seen homeless are congregating everywhere.
They are, and there's a couple aspects to that. One, there are other municipalities that are giving folks bus tickets and sending them places.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's two, our weather is, it's easier to be outside here.
Right.
And what we have seen is in the last 2 years, the numbers have increased. So it'll be interesting to see what numbers actually come out of this count.
But what did you see the morning that you were walking around? What did you see?
I think it was interesting because the places that I thought I would see someone, I didn't see anybody. So at the parks, under the picnic tables, there weren't folks there. Behind, libraries or in alleys, there weren't folks there. But there were some in some of the more remote areas of the parks, and a lot of folks walking around. So in the middle of the night, walking around rather than actually being stationary.
And what did you say? You approach them? Is that what's appropriate as part of the count?
So we approached them and first to determine, because you don't always know, it could be just somebody walking around in the middle of the night. So first we approached them. I was with the policy director from the Community Resource Center, which is the person the city, or the organization the city partners with in Encinitas to look at. We have a pilot project with them for our addressing our homelessness in Encinitas. And so I was with the policy director, and so we approached the person and said, are you okay? Where did you sleep last night? And that would give you the indication if they were homeless or not. And then we provided them an option to come and interview and find out what is the background of homelessness, because it's a really complex issue. There are many, it's tied in with mental health, it's tied in with an economic situation.
And did most agree to converse and/or continue the interview?
Yeah. So one person was sleeping, so we were very respectful of them. I mean, there was actually for this. It's the Regional Task Force on Homelessness for San Diego County, and it has an excellently done training. And so, it was done to be really respectful of the people that we were observing. And I think, I'm a political scientist, and so whenever you study people, it's a really, really important aspect, and I think this is done particularly well. So there's one man was sleeping, and then two women walking around. And
what did they say?
They said, we just said, here's the interview where they can go later and they can get a hot cup of coffee.
So you do the later interview?
I don't do the later interview. We were just doing the counting. And but it does give a real face to homelessness in Encinitas. So our numbers aren't large. Last year we had about 84, or 94 was the count in Encinitas, which isn't large. But when I was thinking about it after this morning, going around between 4 and 7 and doing this count, I was thinking, if in Encinitas we find a way to kind of bring all the right folks together, the city, the Community Resource Center, some of the, the county providing mental health services and other services, if we can find a model of bringing that together in a place where it's an issue, but it's not as drastic as downtown San Diego, then that might be a model that we can really look out towards the rest of the county and other municipalities.
You brought up the point where you work together, but there are a lot of different agencies that get involved. There's the city, there's the county, there's the state, there's the federal government, there's nonprofits, there's faith-based groups, and yet we're dealing with a person at a time.
It is, and that's the complexity and the depth of the issue, which is why it's not easy to solve. If it were easy, we would have solved that problem. But it's complex, and you also have community-oriented policing in Encinitas. You also have the community-oriented policing division from the sheriff that's involved, and so we have.
How are the police interacting? Because 10 years ago, I think it's fair to say relations between the police and the homeless were at a low. I think there was a notion, I don't want to attack police because they do phenomenal work, but homelessness was almost seen as a crime. And we don't see it that way anymore. And police departments are really looking to train their police officers to interact with the homeless in a different way.
And I think in Encinitas we're doing it right. I think our Sheriff's Captain Marion, has gotten I've gotten resounding feedback from the community and these other organizations that he is a true partner looking to address the complexity and holistically this issue versus making it a more crime-based approach.
Right.
And I think the decriminalization really leads to solutions for these folks.
I want to congratulate you because I understand that you were recently appointed to a committee with the League of California Cities, an outstanding organization. We know it well. We've covered their conventions. And you're looking into the issue of housing. That's the committee that you've been assigned?
Housing, community, and economic development.
Okay, obviously important issues. You were in Sacramento recently.
Yes.
Talk to us about what cities are doing and how they're interacting with the state on this question.
So I think it's wonderful what the League does. It really provides a voice to municipality and really advocates for local control, no matter what side of the spectrum somebody may be approaching the issue. And so that's really important to have that voice. But in Sacramento, what we've seen with the proposed budget from Governor Brown is there's no allocation for affordable housing, yet we have a housing crisis.
But let me ask you about that. I know you just joined the council, but you may be aware that last year, Governor Brown proposed a plan that would have taken away local control in exchange for allowing more affordable housing to be built. He was trying to strip some regulations, and localities balked. And so it is a push-pull.
And that tension still exists in Sacramento, and what you'll see now is a number of bills being proposed that are trying to allocate funds for affordable housing from the legislative side. And so I think that's really important that we look at those and find a way to make one or a modification of one of those work for us municipalities. There are also some that are, there's AB 72, which is basically looking to fund the Attorney General to punish cities that have non-compliant housing elements.
And we know that you're one of them.
We are.
And so the voters have continued to be a little recalcitrant because they had a chance to vote for a housing element and they said no.
No.
In November.
In November. And so, yes, we are still trying, and we are still trying for our compliance because that's still very important to, I think, all elected and appointed leaders in the city. But what's really important is, do you punish a city because they're non-compliant with a state law that's not doing what it's supposed to do, which is the production of affordable housing, or do you advocate for housing element reform? And I would support the latter.
How many cities aren't compliant? I mean, I don't expect you to know the exact number, but is it a rampant issue or?
So I believe there's a handful, let's say around 5.
Ooh. That's a problem.
Of all the cities in California that are more critically out of compliance. And there's about a total of 3940, I believe, when I last looked, that are in some variation of compliance. They might have been in compliant and they passed a new regulation which pulled them out of compliant, or they're delayed in getting their housing element passed. So I would say there's a larger group of cities that are not in compliance, and then there's a core group of cities,
and that would
just a
be
handful. We're the only one in San Diego County.
You'll come back. She is Tasha Boerner Horvath. She is a councilwoman in the city of Encinitas in San Diego County, where we are today. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thanks for joining us on Local Edition.